Hi there, I'm Zoe Russell, one of the BAMSA team, and I'll be presenting this paper which was co-written with Professor Samantha Punch, titled Playing with Emotions, the Management and Complexity of Emotion in an Elite Mind Sport. The paper was written as part of the BAMSA project, which is the sociological study of the card game bridge. So this paper is based on qualitative interviews with 52 elite players who have represented their countries and won major international championships. The paper focuses on how players cope with emotions during the tense competitive environment of tournament bridge, as well as exploring scenarios before and after the game. The paper is framed by theories of identity, emotion and social interaction, drawing especially on symbolic interactionism. Key ideas in this tradition include those of Mead, who posited the social self is assessed through the ability to take the role of others as we consider how we are perceived from their imagined standpoints. The self is a social construction that develops through interactions with others over time, rather than being something which is innate, fixed or intrinsic. Additionally, Goffman's dramaturgy explains the presentation of self across different stages and the notion of role performance and impression management. The paper contributes to the field of the Sociology of Emotion, which focuses on the socio-cultural basis for defining, appraising and managing human emotion and feeling. It highlights the kinds of expectations and understandings of self that people hold as relevant in any situation. The social construction of emotion draws attention to the context in which emotions play out. Hochschild's work on emotion management is particularly key here, and she argued that interactionism should consider emotions more centrally in its theorising. Recently, Feinstein and Switat have suggested thinking about emotion management as part of Goffman's impression management, highlighting the performative nature of emotions. From the symbolic interactionist perspective, emotions are actualised, managed and responded to during interaction, and so emotion must be theorised as reflexive, cultural and communicative. So in the research in the first instance, we found bridge players experience a range of emotions, shown here categorised by age and gender. These emotions are the verbatim descriptions of players and show that as a form of serious leisure, elite bridge players experience both highs and lows, positive and negative emotions. Men tended to use the words frustrated and angry more so than the female players, and the older male players rarely said that they had been upset or embarrassed. However, regardless of social characteristics, a central perception across all elite players is that being emotional and emotions generally are detrimental to bridge. This is tied up with the fact that bridge is a game of logic and decision making, which requires high levels of concentration, and games are played over only a matter of minutes, requiring you to process a significant amount of information. Thus, as players stated, if you are experiencing strong emotions, you can become distracted, and this affects your own and your partner's performance. So hence players felt that temperament is everything, and players across the board felt that it's difficult to play good bridge without a good temperament. And bridge is described as a game of mistakes, and if mistakes are inevitable, players' responses to such incidences are what matters in trying to succeed in the game. Because bridge is a partnership game, the interactions between partners are key to the ability to succeed and to have a rewarding experience playing. Thus, players need to be supportive of their partners, even if they make mistakes, rather than becoming frustrated and angry. So this ties into the qualities of a good bridge partner, which players felt involved being able to control one's emotions, having a good temperament, and not reacting at the table, whether this is to mistakes or to pressure more generally. This can be understood through the lens of Goffman's impression management. Given the broad acceptance of the notion that good partners are not emotional, bridge players engage in the performance of controlling emotions and cultivating a version of the idealised self to fit into this context. So they seek to manage impressions about themselves for the benefit of their partner. However, there is no one ideal partner for all bridge players. Performance is specific to a player's unique positioning with their partner over time, and to specific scenarios of interaction in different contexts. So as one player describes here, some players might need more space than others, while some would benefit from a harsher treatment. Importantly, a good partner will be able to understand what their partner needs from them, and the partnership would be based on mutual understanding and the ability to put oneself in your partner's shoes. So being a good partner in practice, though, can be quite challenging. Partnership interaction can involve many complex dynamics of differing skill levels, styles of play, and where partners are related, married, or in a friendship, there are additional social dynamics to consider. In this setting, players can often fail to manage emotions in the heat of the moment. The emotionally charged environment of competitive bridge results in some players acting in ways they would later reflect back on and regret. However, through reflection on their emotions, players can often improve over time and learn ways to manage their emotions, and often describe becoming calmer over time. So emotional responses to winning or losing are fundamentally shaped by whether players perceive themselves as having achieved what they may have expected to have achieved, based on the context and their abilities. For example, players felt it was harder to lose and more frustrating for them if they played badly, or worse than they expected of themselves, and that it was okay to lose if they'd felt that they played well and were up against specific teams that they perhaps expected to win. Finally, players' accounts highlighted the fact that expectations of how to behave and their performance of emotion are shaped by cultural context. So players refer to the different emotional performance of partnerships in relation to their nationalities, for example. They also talk about how people bring their existing personality and socialisation to the bridge table. So if you're someone who's used to shouting at home perhaps and expressing their emotions, this is likely to continue at the bridge table. Players talked about how their own upbringing and relations with partners and family were therefore relevant to their experience at the bridge table. So key to the management of emotions and the presentation of self for players is the front and backstage settings of elite bridge. Kaufman shows that people perform and conceal certain identities in particular contexts. So for elite players, emotions, whilst considered detrimental at the bridge table, the front stage, are more likely to consider these acceptable in the private and personal settings, the backstage. So whilst a good partner is therefore not emotional at the bridge table, which is part of the performance of an elite player identity, as discussed in Punch et al. 2020, it is more acceptable for players to perform emotions freely backstage, for example in conversations with other players, coaches and partners. For example, to have a rant about something which has occurred at the table, or to complain about a partner making a mistake. Other research areas have highlighted that in settings after intense emotion management, it's important that there is no forced secondary emotional labour, but rather there's space for reflection on emotions experienced. This brings to the fore the importance of partnerships taking time to reflect on their performances and discuss interaction dynamics, especially where emotions have been involved. Many players described feeling that they are at their best when playing with a partner who's in tune with them, and they want a partner who's willing to discuss issues after matches. Hence, within the elite bridge context, the development of emotional skills occurs not just individually through self-reflection, but in partnership with others. Players manage emotions both for their own sake and for that of their partner. We've tried to summarise here a model of emotions for elite tournament bridge. We have the overarching discourse of emotions as detrimental, and beneath the interplay of both individual emotion performance and management, and partnership emotion performance and management. We then also have the self-reflection that takes place as an individual player, and additionally partnership reflection. These combine to produce emotional skills used for the care of self and other. So the conclusions of the research are firstly the sense in which elite bridge players avoid the expression of emotion at the bridge table, but less so in contexts away from the table. Hence, the specific ways in which players manage emotion and perform impression management are dependent upon the stage in which they are acting. However, despite the desire to manage emotion at the bridge table, bridge is an emotionally charged context. It's a high-pressure environment, and players often fail to manage their emotions in ways that they would deem desirable. That makes the spaces beyond the bridge table important for self and partnership reflection to resolve conflicts or issues that arise in the heat of the moment. Finally, by using symbolic interactionism, we can start to tease out the ways in which emotions, identities, and social interactions play out for elite bridge players. Using Goffman's dramaturgy, we can explore the performative nature of emotion and the social context in which they occur for the elite bridge playing community. These are the core references cited in the presentation and used in the paper. Thank you very much for listening, and finally thank you to the funders of the BAMSA research.